Welcome to this explainer. Look, have you noticed how with every passing year, the heat doesn't just rise, it honestly feels like it attacks you? We're all feeling this shift, from massive flash floods wiping out roads overnight to these crushing multi-year droughts we keep hearing about. Extreme weather is basically our new baseline. So today, we're stripping away the generic headlines to get a real jaisa, a real review of the exact mechanics behind our climate crisis.
But here's the absolute most critical question. Who or what is actually architecting these shifts? Today, we are auditing the global systems driving this crisis to find out exactly who is holding the smoking gun.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Part 1. The crime and the weapon.
Now, we all know climate change isn't just about enduring a slightly hotter summer, right? It's a fundamental disruption of our Earth's natural thermal balance. And the primary weapon here? Greenhouse gas emissions, mostly carbon dioxide. Normally, solar radiation bounces back into space, but these emissions drastically alter our atmosphere. Basically, they act like a giant, hyper-efficient thermal blanket, permanently trapping that heat inside and driving up our baseline temperatures. Which brings us to part 2. Suspect number 1, heavy industry. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is we aren't just talking about a couple of isolated smokestacks. No, we are looking at a colossal, deeply entrenched global network of factories and power plants. To meet our modern energy demands, we relentlessly burn fossil fuels, specifically coal and oil, and this infrastructure actively pumps toxic carbon straight into our atmosphere at an unprecedented volume, literally every single second. To put that undeniable scale into perspective, just look at the math here. Over 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions originate directly from the energy sector. 70%! That's a massive slice of the pie. It vividly illustrates that our reliance on industrial fossil fuels isn't just a side issue, it is the dominant engine of global warming. But, that still leaves a 30% gap in the data. So, let's look at part 3, suspect number 2, deforestation and agriculture. By nature's brilliant design, our ancient forests act as vital carbon sinks. They actively absorb CO2 and safely lock it away. But mass deforestation, whether it's for urban development or lumber, completely short-circuits this system. And actually, it's worse than just removing our natural protection. When we cut them down, we trigger a massive carbon bomb. All that stored carbon the forest spent centuries holding onto is violently released right back into the air. It's a devastating double whammy for our ecosystem. And, well, it's not just about the missing trees. The sheer industrialized scale of modern agriculture, especially widespread livestock breeding, produces a massive and often overlooked byproduct, methane gas. Methane is incredibly potent. In the short term, it traps significantly more heat than carbon dioxide. So our aggressive farming practices act as a powerful accelerant, dramatically speeding up the whole warming effect. Which leads us to part 4, the twist, our individual role. So the crucial point is those faceless industrial giants we talked about, they aren't just operating in a vacuum. They are powered entirely by consumer demand. Our daily logistics, our heavy reliance on single-use petrochemical plastics, and our unchecked electricity use at home, they directly fuel this crisis. Through our personal carbon footprints, we are equal, active participants here. We're essentially the micro-engines driving the macro problem.
And finally, part 5, the verdict. Time for action.
And this brilliantly illustrates what we can actually do about it. The path forward absolutely requires actionable mitigation. I know it sounds basic, but restoring natural carbon sinks by planting trees locally and aggressively optimizing our own energy use, these are highly effective countermeasures. When billions of us pivot our habits to reduce demand, the market shift is monumental. The power grid adjusts, production scales back, and our emissions can finally begin to stabilize. Which brings us to our final and probably most profound reality check. We know the science now, and we know the culprits. If we refuse to adapt our own lifestyles today, are we actively choosing our own convenience over the survival of future generations? The time has really come to take ownership of our impact. So, are you ready to audit your own carbon footprint? I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Thank you for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning the status quo, and I'll catch you next time.